Welcome, welcome, welcome to the UpKeep Pledge Pros Podcast, a podcast dedicated to unmatched value and unwavering support for our customers and the community at large. Today, we have a longtime UpKeep customer. We have Ross Wheeler, the Capital Renewal Plan Manager for Salvation Army. He is also an UpKeep Administrator for the Southern Territory. Ross, welcome.
Hello, Brian. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. Greatly appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome. I'm super stoked to have you, Ross. We had the chance to meet in person. We had the chance to really chop it up and dig deep into Salvation Army and UpKeep's partnership at your conference you just had recently, which was awesome. I got to meet a ton of your team, true professionals, as we would say, doing the good work, doing all the good work. Um, and Yeah, it was just amazing. And I look forward to any other opportunities we have to spend some time together, spend some time with the team. So thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of UpKeep for being here. And we really, really appreciate that. I wanted to talk a bit today about UpKeep, about you, and just kind of get after it. So before we do anything like that, Ross, tell us a little bit about your background, where you've been, what you've done, what you're doing now, and ultimately Salvation Army.
Yeah, sure. I'll get right into that. First, I want to thank you and Nicole for being with us during the conference there. That was such a blessing to have you all and have you all meet all of our delegates from across our 15-state territory in the South. It's quite a big territory. So that was a good time to have you all there. So thank you for that. For me and my background, the Salvation Army, I've been with the Salvation Army for 13 years now.
Wow.
Started with the started with the organization with the Augusta Kroc Center, with the construction and then the commissioning of that Kroc Center in Augusta. And then worked there at the Augusta Kroc Center as the facility director for the Augusta Area Command. The Area Command in the Salvation Army world is a group of business units, right? So there will be other business there, Center of Hope, Emergency Shelter, family thrift stores that you may be familiar with, and the different service offerings that the Salvation Army offers in the area would be called an area command. So I spent some time there, and then assisted with the other Kroc centers in the South, and then also in some of the other territories across the country, and then moved up to the territorial headquarters, which is based in Atlanta, and been there since 2015.
Cool.
So I've worked in this capacity with the organization. So my capacity is Capital Renewal Plan Manager for the Kroc Centers, and then UpKeep Administrator for the entire Southern Territory, as you know, and you seen and met with all of our territory delegates at the conference. So that's a little bit of the background and where I'm at and how I serve the organization now.
That's awesome. I had the opportunity to tour the Kroc Center there. It was amazing. Nicole and I actually were talking as we were walking around. I was like, man, I wish there's around where we are.
Yeah.
I actually ended up looking at the map of the different territories to see where the closest Kroc Center was to me. Unfortunately, it's like an hour and 45 minutes away. But I hope that they expand and further, you build as many of them as possible, because I can't stress enough to people listening that how just clean and neat and organized and professional everything was at those Kroc Centers. I was truly amazed, honestly. And I would certainly go there. I even asked the lady at the counter, I was like, hey, what's the process for setting up like a membership or something here? And she was very sweet and kind of walked me through everything, which was really great. Um, so that's awesome. And those Kroc centers are all over the place, right? They're in every territory's
Yeah.
got a handful of them. And can you give us a little bit of background what Kroc Center means?
Yeah. So it's KROC, and there are 26 Kroc centers across the country. Now you could do a Google search and find one in your local area. A Kroc center is um, a really nice community center. Is really what a Kroc center is at its core. That offers all sorts of great programming, for the local community. And the way that the Kroc centers started in the Salvation Army, ended up owning and operating these Kroc centers is through the Ray and Joan Kroc Foundation. So, a lot of listeners may be familiar with Ray Kroc and how that's tied to McDonald's. Joan Kroc was his wife. They were very philanthropic, especially Joan. And Joan went through an several year interview period to leave a large endowment to a nonprofit to build and operate Kroc Centers. She had a vision for these community centers to offer a lot of programming to impoverished and blighted communities. And she went through that process, and it was a couple year process, and she ended up selecting the Salvation Army with this large endowment gift that was left to the organization to then build and operate these community centers to foresee her vision and carry on her vision along with the missional values of the Salvation Army, so that you have those two alignments that really make these centers unique. And there's such a great offering for a lot of those communities that were blighted or impoverished. A lot of those communities have have had this beacon of light in that community now, and it's actually turn those communities around and really help the children, youth, and young adults in those areas, and help develop their lives, enrich their lives. So that's really for me what really just grabbed a hold of my heartstrings when I seen what these centers are doing, and what they're geared toward, and all the good that they do bring. They really are a beacon of light in a lot of those communities. So
Yeah, that being there, hearing your team, talking with your team, it is completely obvious that all the right intentions are there from every level of the organizational, department person that I spoke to. Everybody is in lockstep with the mission, and the mission is to support, right? Is to build relationships with the community, leverage the technology, the nice buildings and the campuses that you guys build to have these havens for people. And it brings me into what we talked a lot about, which was facilities management and maintenance, and ensuring that all of these resources are up to the standard and capable to support the people who need to be supported. And you guys are taking steps all over the country to ensure that not just the Kroc centers, but the donation centers and the houses and all of these places, because Salvation Army is not just Kroc centers, right? I mean, there's so many levels of support that you guys provide to the community, and maintenance and facilities management is a huge part of that, right? Um,
yeah, yeah. To add to that, Brian, what I would say is that the Kroc Centers for the Salvation Army as an organization were really the catalyst for the organization to look at preventive maintenance in a different light. And it really in the beginning, because when these buildings were being constructed and then commissioned, they're all state of the art. When a lot of them were commissioned around 2011. At that time, they were roughly 25 to $30 million buildings in that time frame, and they had a lot of state of the art, cutting edge technologies in the buildings. A lot of these buildings have indoor swimming pools, and our facility managers out there know that indoor swimming pools are somewhat of a bear to manage and maintain. So that was really the catalyst for the organization to look at, we've got to do something different moving forward with our preventive maintenance, especially with these new buildings that we're commissioning, just because it's something different than we've had in the past historically. So that's really a blessing for me, is that, and the organization, is that we had these Kroc centers to start looking at preventive maintenance in a new light, and that's what's brought us down the path of investing our resources into facilities maintenance software and other technologies that we're using to help us build that agency around preventive maintenance.
yeah, I mean, it's like a benchmark, right? You benchmark your Kroc centers, you get the underlying structure in place, where the money is going, where the resources are, the manpower requirements to maintain, and the contractors associated with keeping these buildings where they are. And then you take that ideology and you implant it to all the other types of buildings and facilities that you guys offer for all different types of reasons, right? Which brings me to my first question, which is, you're a super user with UpKeep. you guys are doing really, really well. Was there any software that you used prior to Upkeep, like facilities management software, a CMMS, some sort of work management?
Yeah. We when I came on board to the organization, it was late in 2010, and we you know when I started there at the Augusta Kroc, that was one of the first things that I asked because my previous experience before working with the Salvation Army, I'd used different types of facilities maintenance software. And, when I started one first few days, I said, okay, how are we managing these workflows and this preventive maintenance? Well, we don't have anything yet. And we really need your help with aligning with a tool that's going to help us. So, initially we were working with Excel spreadsheets, and, we had some really fancy Excel spreadsheets and those things. And we learned that we're going to have a more robust system to do this properly and to help all those other facility managers standardize across the territory.
That's huge.
And so the standardization was big. So we're all speaking and reading from the same sheet of music, and because we're all working in Kroc centers, so we all want to do very, very standardized processes. So we then purchased Archibus. We were using Archibus in the early days, and we used Archibus up until October of last year, and it worked well for the time that we used it, and we made the transition over to UpKeep in October 2023. Primarily for the user interface on the mobile devices, just to be more effective in the field for our technicians and our facility managers, because they're on the go. These
That's right.
just real quick, these guys and girls out there, they may be managing their large Kroc Center facility or a large community center or emergency disaster services, or Center of Hope, emergency shelter, and then they're working on their daily tasks there. But with these, in the wakes of these hurricanes, they're then commissioned out to go and tasked out to go serve hot meals, to be some of the first responders on the ground to help with these natural disasters and things. So just having those priorities, on top of priorities, having a robust tool that's in their hand is paramount.
Yeah, I mean, when Upkeep was made, Ryan had the foresight, right, to think about you need to meet technicians, technical people where they are, right? And where are they? They're not sitting behind a desk, right? They're out doing the work. They have to be ingrained in a system that supports what they're doing. And like, I like to say, Upkeep was designed to enable the way that work is actually done. We don't want to force you to change the way you do work to comply with some system, right? We want to take your work and enable it through sound, structure and software and application. And you guys being spread out all over the place. And like you said, I talked to lots of your team where it's a handful of guys who are overseeing multiple locations. And as you said, if the priorities change and they have to be redirected to support in other ways, that's got to go with them, right? It doesn't just
Yeah,
stop. And that's wonderful. And the way you guys are utilizing is very good. And just switching gears a bit, I know that you have been piloting and kind of spearheading some remote monitoring with Upkeep.
absolutely. Yeah.
How's that
Yes.
going?
Yeah. So the edge sensors, we we see that there's a big potential for us with the edge sensors, and really calling that the next frontier for us for Upkeep. Like, where do we go next? And I think that's it. And in a lot of cases, just this week actually, we're going to test one of the 150 amp circuit CTs
Oh, cool.
on a well pump that's located in North Georgia at Camp Grandview. There's all of the divisions in the South have a large camp. It's a beautiful camp up in Jasper, Georgia, perched up on top of a mountain, and it's used for all types of summer camp activities and things like that. I won't go too much into detail there, but they've been having some issues with their water well. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the 150 amp circuit CT, the edge sensor. I'm going to clamp that on the well pump, I'm going to monitor it to see what is the frequency and sequence of the on and off of the well pump, so I can get a sense of what is the leak down on, how much we're leaking water. We don't know where we're leaking the water, but if I first start monitoring the pump and I can get a sense of, how frequently is it cycling on, cycling off, then I can get a good sense of how bad our leak is. So that would then help with those troubleshooting efforts. So that's one way that we see that we're going to use Edge is for troubleshooting those one-off instances. I have a whole library of those that I could go through and say we could go do right now. But others are monitoring critical equipment. The Salvation Army, as many of our listeners will know, that we serve a lot of meals to the community, whether it be during national disaster events like we're experiencing now, or just to the community that needs those meals. So we have a lot of perishable products at a lot of our facilities. A lot of our facilities have old and well-used refrigeration equipment, and we could have several $1,000s of perishable products in a cooler or freezer at any time. So monitoring those with the Edge sensors would be huge for us. Just monitoring those temperatures. So that would be another Edge sensor that is a temperature probe that we can easily mount in our cooler or freezer, and we can set the parameters for the specific temperature that we want to keep that, those perishable products. And when those temperatures aren't met, we can see that we receive a text, email, alert to let us know that something's going sideways with that. So yeah, I could continue down a long road, but those are the two big ones for me, are just troubleshooting those one-off equipment problems, and then monitoring that refrigeration equipment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I can't say it enough. What I love is just the amount of thought and resources and structure that's going into your facilities. I mean, like, you're providing such essential resources to people who otherwise may not have it. And the lengths in which Salvation Army is willing to go to ensure that those people do not miss out on necessity is just a powerful thing. And I just love that. And like I said, it's just amazing. I told you this when I was at the conference with you. I remember being a kid and my mom talking about the Salvation Army and donating things to the Salvation Army. And at the time, I'm like, what is that? Like, the only thing I knew about the Salvation Army was like in movies where you see the guy ringing a bell outside with
Exactly.
yeah, that's like all you
Yeah.
knew. And then coming and meeting your team and actually seeing the depth of what it is, I was just like, it was just wild.
Yeah. It really is a great organization that is meeting a lot of human need out there, and without discrimination. It's really a blessing to be able to serve the organization. And you are right. Our vision for our conference that you attended was based on Proverbs 29:18, when there is no vision, the people perish. And we're really applying that to our facilities, because our facilities are really the backbones and structure that enable our teams to serve the communities in the way we do. So, we're applying that same Proverbs 29:18 to when there is no vision for our buildings, our buildings perish.
That's
So
right.
so that's our vision that we're carrying forward with our new preventive maintenance approach, and things that we're going with UpKeep and some other resources and tools. So
Yeah, and another thing that was cool too is a lot of people that I spoke to were tenured veterans at this organization, right? It wasn't like you're talking to everybody's been there 6 months, a year. No, it's like you talk to this person's been there 25 years and 13 like you, and then
yeah,
15, 29, 10, like a lot of tenure, which tells me that the people in the organization are being fulfilled, right?
yeah,
They have this sense of duty. They have this sense of fulfillment in the things that they do every single day. And that's wonderful. That's a clear, to me, that's a clear indication that the organization has its priorities correct, and that you're in alignment with the true vision of what you're trying to do, because people make everything happen, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
The tenure to speak to that, and the territorial headquarters property department, they still consider me the new guy. So, that's
You're the young man in there.
yeah.
That's awesome. So I wanted to ask, we talked a good bit about it. At the core of Salvation's current utilization of upkeep, how would you say, or what would be the biggest impact items or things that you've done that have really helped drive not only your role as capital renewal, which is huge in ensuring that assets, see their useful life for cost effectiveness, but the guys on the front lines, like what has been some really well received good things that have come from the utilization of upkeep?
I would say number one and most, I guess, widely reported back from facility managers and technicians across the territory is that they're better able to prioritize their work, and memorialize their work. Just as I said earlier, is that at any moment, any of the Salvation Army staff could be, redirected to report to a natural disaster and help with those efforts, or prepare other things to support those efforts. And they've already got a backlog of task lists and things that they're already working on already. So then
Yeah.
then they're pulled in a different direction just to be a better, best service to the communities. And that's just the nature and how we work. And being able to prioritize their workflows has been the biggest impact for the organization. We haven't, even before we even scratched the surface of what upkeep has done for preventive maintenance, but just managing that daily workflow, because it's quite the workflow, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
And being able to prioritize that and to be more effective, for each of their local units and their buildings and their surrounding community, I think has been the biggest impact for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. You don't know what you don't know, right? And if there's no organizational structure into how you're performing your work, what's important, what's not important, and things can get in disarray pretty quickly. And we find a lot, Salvation Army is no different, where when we have people who come from, pen and paper, spreadsheets, all of those things generally are performing the function for them initially, right? I don't ever look down on anybody trying to manage maintenance in any capacity. But there gets to a point where you're not able to scale any further outside of that process, right? So then you start looking at software, CMMS, work management, all these different things, and there has to be line of sight where you want to be and where you are, and how do you get there? And a CMMS is something that is part of that process, right? The part of
It,
that bridge that gets you to where you want to be.
yeah, and part of that bridge, Brian, that's huge, is that before you have these conversations, about leveraging a tool like Upkeep, our organization specifically never really had any discussions on local levels, or any, most of the units out there. I won't say any because some of them may have that I don't know about, but those organizations really never had discussions about what our service level agreements, right? And so all the work that's flowing in, it's all urgent. Everything's urgent. It's all urgent all the time. It's like, so then how do you prioritize everything when everything's urgent? So the really great discussion that Upkeep prompted for these local teams is to start having these discussions around, okay, service level agreements. We're all going to sit down as a leadership team and technician team. We're going to talk about what is urgent, what's high priority, what's medium priority, low priority, all those things, so we can then better manage our workflow. Because before those times, it was everything's urgent, and that could be quite frustrating, right? We may not be focusing on the real urgency at the moment.
That's right.
So that's one of those real beautiful discussions that we've been blessed with that's come out of that, is to sit down, have those meaningful discussions about service level agreements and how we're all going to agree to do work moving forward. So,
Yeah, I remember distinctly being at your conference and on stage, because I talking to all the people prior to my speech, saying if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
how bringing people into the process. Let's all, like you said, let's all sit down. Let's all agree from top to bottom what is critical, what is not critical, so that when those calls start coming in, and they will, we're organized in a structured manner. We all agree, and we can start eliminating problems as they come along based on their criticality and priority that we have all agreed on. And that's huge. That aside from setting up that hierarchy in the beginning and getting everything in the system, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Because when everyone is in alignment, resources are easier to allocate, right? And people know where they stand. And there's a clear line of communication from top to bottom. So all of that is wonderful. And you guys are really, really driving that. And, Upkeep, our relationship with Salvation Army is very unique in a sense that we're literally watching and trying to help you grow and to meet those needs. And it's so cool to see where you were, where you are now, and the visions that you're putting out to your team and to the corporate level, to where we should be. And there's no doubt in my mind that you will achieve those things, because I saw it firsthand in just 2 days of spending time with your team. And that's just wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, we just yesterday we had a really productive meeting with James Donahue with Upkeep,
Great guy.
where great provided great training for some interested individuals from across our territory that are interested in leveraging analytics now.
Nice.
We're just approaching 1 year, and so it's a good time now for them to those teams to start reviewing those different reports and take an analysis of the work that they've done now. And I feel like that is then going to grow a whole new set of legs for where we go with Upkeep once they start using the analytics portion for their it could be their local end of year report. They may use some of the reporting that will go to their advisory boards. I'm really excited about where those analytics could go and whose desks they could land on. So see
Yeah.
how that goes.
I mean, you've done it right. You've spent a year building out the fundamentals of your processes, right? Planning, scheduling, getting into some spare parts management, preventive maintenance strategy. You have to do all of that before you start fooling around with other stuff. Like,
Yeah,
those things have to be right. And the fact that you've taken this year to really figure out what's right, what's wrong, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, that's right. That's good, because then when you start to measure, you're going to be measuring the right things. And there's the measurement of those right things will provide the right outcomes for you, the right data for you, not just you, but your local teams to go out and say, hey, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. Let's move in this direction.
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
So wonderful. Ross, it has been an absolute pleasure. I can't say enough good things about Salvation Army. Like you said, I'm wearing my stolen Upkeep and Salvation Army shirt from the conference. It's such a good
Oh,
one. Go ahead.
I would like to say, we we would not be this far along without the great team over at Upkeep.
Thank you.
There are some unsung heroes behind the scenes that I would like to thank. Marissa Corals, amazing project manager with you all. I would say the success and where we are is attributed to Marissa and how effective of a project manager Marissa was in the beginning, and yourself working with you, Nicole, and James Donahue as well. He's been amazing. So we've got a really amazing support team, and we appreciate that, and we know that we would not be here without you all. So thank you.
You are very, very welcome. Shout out Marissa. Great work. James, Nicole. Our support of you, Ross, is that much more meaningful because we know that support goes to you and then goes to the community. And there's nothing more rewarding than helping somebody who can never repay you. And that's how this feels, right? And it's amazing.
Right.
Um, Ross, I'll give you the last word. If anybody would like to contact you, get a hold of you, talk Salvation Army, talk maintenance, talk capital planning, how can they do so?
Yeah, so my email, it's a long one. It's ross.wheeler at uss www.salvationarmy.org.
That's a
They
long
can
one.
reach me. Yeah, it is a long one. So they can reach me there. They can look me up on the Salvation Army Southern Territory Headquarters website in the property department there. I can be found there.
Right on. Awesome. Ross,
Thank you so
again,
much.
thank you so much. And we will see you on the next one.
Sounds great, Bryan. Thank you for having me.
See you, man. Thank you.